the Pittsburgh Steelers had
Whoa.
fallen and they couldn't get up. And they finally got up, down 24-7 in the third quarter. They found a way. They flipped the switch. They turned it on. They got it going. They somehow came back and beat the Indianapolis Colts to, number one, end a 3-game losing streak. Number two, win the AFC North. And let me just make this observation. Let's talk about this now while I'm thinking of it, because there's a good chance I'll forget. They seemed a little too jubilant about winning the AFC North. The old hats and T-shirts moment. It's just, look, in a year where there's only one bye available and that thing went bye-bye a couple of weeks ago when you fell into the well that you've been trying to get out of for 3 weeks, what does it matter? What does it matter to win a division championship when you have no home field advantage? TJ Watt told me after the game they still have a hard time finding energy in an empty stadium. Hey, they get to play a home game in 2 weeks and do it all over again. Yeah. Try to find energy when there is no external energy. I mean, I was surprised by what Tomlins said after the game. I was surprised by the dancing in the locker room. Didn't the Saints lose a draft pick for what these guys are doing that we see on screen? I don't know. I may have to do my research on this.
Dancing in the locker room?
I think the Saints lost. I think they lost a draft pick for it.
For dancing in the locker room? What?
Yes.
Who? When did that happen? I missed that.
That was the Sean Payton, the night that they trounced the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Week 9. The video emerged of Payton and players dancing in the tiny locker room at Raymond James Stadium.
Oh,
now,
you're right.
That's the road locker room.
Yeah.
The home locker room in Pittsburgh, as you see, much more spacious.
Much more spacious.
Yeah, much more room. But yeah, the Saints got in trouble for dancing in the locker room.
You're right.
They eventually
You're right.
lost a late-round pick, and they got fined a bunch of money for it.
I forgot.
Anyway, it just seemed like a little bit too much of a party atmosphere for doing what they were expected to do a month ago.
Okay.
Guys, the bigger prize is the Super Bowl.
Well,
who cares about the division championship? You already were in the playoffs. It doesn't matter, especially of all years, Chris. This year it doesn't matter. There's no benefit to it other than you don't have to travel for your playoff game.
All right, hold on. Let me just get this down. 7:04 Monday, December 28th. Christmas did nothing. He is still the Grinch. Okay.
No, December 28th is the key. We've had this exchange via text message. December 28th is a very bad day in the annals of the team that I was cursed to choose to root for when I was a kid, dating back to 1975. So, hey, here's the thing. Christmas is over. Goodwill toward men. That all expires the time the clock hits midnight on December 26th. Then it's back to being a jerk again. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
well, full disclosure, we saw
removed.
that on text message already too. So, come up with some new material here today. All right. Come on. But okay, they're happy. They won the damn AFC North championship. It's been a few years since they've won it. They've gone through some things as a football team. Don't be mad at them for that. It's okay. I mean, especially, too, within the fashion of the way they won the football game and the way they had looked the 3 weeks previous to that. Yeah, they had, like the ultimate proverbial monkey on their back, right? I mean, geez, 11-0. Is this one of the best teams we've ever seen? We're getting crap for not paying more homage to them on the show and telling everybody how great they are. And then, of course, the world fell out, from under them there. And it looked like it was going to continue yesterday. For 2.5 quarters, you thought, whoa, it's the Steelers are done. They're looking like it's going to be one and done, and they're out of the playoffs. They can't get their mojo back. And, of course, that changed, and it changed everything. So I can't be mad at them for celebrating. Yeah, okay, you're right. It's not a big deal.
Would you play the starters? Would you play the starters next week or give them a bye? Because they haven't had a bye all season long. And what's the real difference between the 2 seed and the 3 seed? Remember, they got ready for the game against the Titans week 4. They ultimately didn't play it. They haven't had any real time off, although a bye week really isn't time off. It's just time where you're not getting ready to play a game. You're still working and preparing, but at least you're not out there on Sunday or Saturday
car crash
playing a game and getting yourself banged up and having new injuries to recover from. Would you rest starters if you were Mike Tomlin?
I would rest the defense. That is for sure, no matter what. I mean, like you said, hey, you're getting the home playoff game. You don't know really how this is going to shake out as far as being able to play matchups and doing all of that. So the defense, Mike, and I think you heard me during their game yesterday, it concerns me at times because of their front four and how much they have to play them all the time. Guys like Cam Hayward and Tuitt and T.J. Watt, they barely ever come out of the game. I mean, ever. They play almost every snap. So I would rest that side of the football. I do think that's a side that needs rest. Offensively, I would have them go out there a little bit, Mike, probably. They just got it going a little bit. Let's see if we can just keep, the good momentum going, the execution going from where we left off against the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe we can tinker with another idea or two in the passing game. As I said here on Monday morning, that's probably the approach I would have because the offense just got going. I wouldn't want to pull the rug out from underneath them quite yet.
The other concern is the health of Ben Roethlisberger, and there continues to be a significant disconnect between what's contained in the Steelers' 3 times per week injury reports and the Sunday splash reports. 2 weeks ago, it was Jason Lockenfor of CBS saying there's serious concern about both of Roethlisberger's knees. I went back and looked at the injury reports leading into that Sunday.
Nothing.
No mention of his knees on the injury reports. Yesterday, it was Ian Rappaport of NFL Media saying that Ben Roethlisberger in week 13 hyperextended his knee. Well, for every game after that, every week after that, every injury report after that, no mention of his knee. So I don't know what's going on here, unless he's getting treatment on his own or getting no treatment at all, because that's when, as a practical matter, you end up disclosing the injury. When you have the guy go into the treatment room and there is a record that he has received some sort of attention for that body part, that's how you get busted after the fact. That's how they got the Jets for Brett Favre. Favre going on and on trying to excuse how he fell apart down the stretch in 2008 because he had a partially torn biceps tendon. They went back. They saw the records. He'd gotten treatment. They hadn't disclosed it. They whacked everybody. That's what the Steelers would be risking if he really is getting treatment. I think common sense suggests either he isn't or he's getting it on his own somewhere. Right. If he truly is injured, if these reports are accurate, but they're too persistent to not be accurate. So my point is there's value in giving him a week off and letting him heal up.
No, I hear that.
Versus having him go out there and keep throwing the ball down the field.
You're right, Mike. No, it's a valid point. You're definitely not off there. I don't know how severe that injury is. Just as the way it looked yesterday, the way he played in the second half, everything like that. If he is somewhat close to 100%, I would say yes. Let's continue and build and grow on kind of what we did at the second half of this football game because it was the ultimate tale of two halves. I mean, the first half was nothing. The Pittsburgh Steelers couldn't do anything. The defense basically scored for them, set the offense up for a short drive. But after that, there was nothing until, the second half starts. Big Ben drives them down, and they get down to the 1 yard line. And it's like we've seen over the last few weeks with the Pittsburgh Steelers, right, Mike? I mean, they get down there, and you just go, well, they can't run it in, and they're not going to score. They don't score. But luckily, the defense pins them in, and from that point on, they pin the Colts in, get to good field position, and I don't know. I mean, Big Ben and that offense just started clicking. It started being more aggressive down the field. I think that was the big thing we both came away with from the game. It was, we talked about all week, they're predictable last week and predictable in the fact that they're going to throw it every play, and then you know where they're going to throw it. That's like a double whammy. At least yesterday we saw them say, hey, screw these damn short passes and these 5-yard dink and dunk crap. Let's start to stretch the field, and it showed that it was effective.
It's amazing the transformation that finally happened,
right,
and the fact that it took a 24-7 deficit against the Colts in the third quarter to finally wake the Steelers up. And I know and am related to a lot of Steelers fans, and they have been going nuts lately. Get rid of Ben Roethlisberger. Could he retire at halftime? It's like, have you seen who would take his place? Do you remember last year? Do you really want to do that again? I don't think you do. And then there's that segment of Steelers fans that comes out of the woodwork whenever they struggle and says, get rid of Mike Tomlin, get rid of Mike Tomlin, get rid of Mike Tomlin. It's like, are you kidding me? There are members of the limited partnership, the minority owners that Art Rooney II, who runs the team, routinely ignores, but they will get riled up from time to time about Tomlin. And the 3 straight losses, that was causing more and more chatter. And then as of yesterday, by halftime, there were plenty of people who would have loved to have seen a lot of folks get run out of the building from the locker room and told to never come back. So they really did get themselves back on the right track. And I can understand the moment of jubilation. I just would say don't lose sight of the bigger picture. You've won plenty of division titles. They mean nothing unless you do something in the postseason. And my question will continue to be, can they avoid one and done if they end up facing the Ravens in the wild card round, if they end up facing the Titans again in the wild card round? Can they pull off a victory and continue, or will they be out of it? Because, look, the Colts, we still don't know where the Colts fit.
Sure.
But the Colts aren't as good as some of these other teams, especially right now, that the Steelers are going to have to contend with in 2 weeks.
Maybe not. You're right. I mean, the Colts are a little bit all over the place. Definitely. And, of course, the Phillip Rivers factor and him, being a little careless with the football and all of that. But I don't think Pittsburgh, is going to lose sight. I don't. I think with what they've gone through the last few years, Mike Tomlin, the leader he is, and then really the struggles of the last few weeks and even yesterday, I don't think they're going to walk into the building today and just be like, oh, man, we can relax. We're back. We're back. We're back to the 11-0 and 10-0 football team we were. We're indestructible. No, they're still going to walk in the building today realizing, one, okay, we're in the AFC, and at some point, if we want to get where we got to get to, we're going to have to deal with Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So that should keep anybody in the AFC on edge at all times to realize we need to get there to get to that standard. But I just think with the last few years, Big Ben's elbow, all that, I have a hard time thinking they'll fall asleep at the wheel, Mike. I do. And I think yesterday kind of proved that they can change the formula and be effective, and maybe got their mojo back on the defensive side of the ball and in the passing game.
And credit to Mike Tomlin. He always knows what his team needs. And I think the approach he took in the aftermath of yesterday's win was calculated, was strategic, was designed to be exactly what he believed the locker room needed.
Right.
And now the challenge is get them refocused. And whether it's 12 days until the next meaningful game or 6 days until the next game when they're out on the field in a meaningless game for the most part, other than maybe the difference between number 2 and number 3, which isn't a small difference if you're talking about the 1 seed eventually losing to someone else, and maybe you would end up hosting the AFC Championship again this year. It's different because you wouldn't have fans there if you're Pittsburgh, but I'm going to defer to Mike Tomlin. Let's hear from the quarterback of the team that managed to blow the 17-point lead on Sunday. Here's Phillip Rivers talking about the Colts' collapse in the second half in Pittsburgh.
If you could have been in the stadium, there was a feel of complete domination in the first half, all 3 phases. Just kind of like y'all don't have an answer, and we're not going to give you an answer. And in the second half, it was like almost we gave them a glimmer of hope, and then it felt a little bit like we were hanging on, And obviously, you say, well, if you felt like you're hanging on, why didn't you stop hanging on and just go push the gas down? I mean, that's easier said than done.
And that's very real. When you're in that crucible, when you're in that moment, when you feel it slipping away, it's not like there's a button you can press to stop it. You can't get off the ride at that point. You're in the middle of it. You're trying to figure out how best to change it, and there's only so much you can do as you feel it slipping through your fingers. That's the way it works. And usually that all plays out in the context of a completely full stadium, and they're waving the terrible towels. And as Jim Nantz noted yesterday, it was the 45th anniversary of the debut of the terrible towel, which came during a playoff game against the Colts in 1975. But even without fans there, you can get that sense. And this happens in any competitive setting, right? Any competitive setting, when you know it's falling apart, there's nothing you can do about it. And there, it fell apart the final 5 possessions for the Colts, starting with that stop they made on their own 2-yard line. That was the moment where we should have said, and they should have said, and they should have behaved as if they delivered the dagger to the Steelers.
Yeah.
24-7. They drive down. They go for it instead of taking the field goal. That should have been the moment that it was over. And instead, that's the moment that the Steelers defense rose up and dictated that it was going to change, and it was going to end up going the home team's way.
Yeah, it smothered them from that point on. I mean, in a game where the Colts up to that point had pretty consistently moved the ball all day long. But yeah, get them backed up there. Big Ben misses a little out route right on 4th down. Didn't really drive it in there, threw it a hair late, gets knocked down. They don't capitalize. You go, oh man, Pittsburgh in these, inside the 5-yard line struggles. But the defense rises to the occasion, which is why Mike Tomlin felt comfortable going for it. I wasn't a big fan of going for it there, but there's a great example of a coach knowing his football team, because I'm going, you need the field goal at some point. Let's get some momentum, Pittsburgh, and just make it 24-10 and get down by 2 scores and have something positive here for the offense. That happened. You went, geez. But the defense just came out pissed off, 3 and out, punt it, Deontay Johnson deep ball, bomb touchdown. Whoa, here we go. It's 24-14, and the defense continued to smother to where in the first half, the Colts were so balanced. Rivers was really good. And then, of course, when they got first downs in the first half and even in the first drive of the third quarter, it allowed them to stay with the run game. But they couldn't even get involved in the run game to get a first down and get the clock going and get the chains moving there in the second half to really get anything going at all. And then when they finally did, Rivers, 28-24, they're down. There's 6 minutes. It's a 1st and 10, and they're around midfield, and he throws a deep post interception that you would see a rookie throw. And unfortunately, it just happens too much with Phillip Rivers this day and age. That really, took them out of having a chance to win the football game.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.